We can correct this broken promise. We can uphold the decision of the founders and the vision of America. Everyone in the world thought he was crazy. A lot of people in his party, in our party, thought he was crazy. He went through a primary, and they all thought the dumb guy won. They said, this guy is a hick from nowhere. He has no business being in Washington. We got to get over it. How are we going to get him out of there? Day after day after day, he's proving them wrong until you get to the apotheosis. But I'm going to tell you, Abraham Lincoln overthrew a governmental structure that was oppressing the people, and he brought them freedom. And we are living with that legacy today. Ronald Reagan is the first president to have lived in the city of Chicago. Do we all know that? Yeah. Do we all know that Ronald Reagan, on the day of the Eastland disaster, was living on South Drexel? His father, Jack Reagan, was a shoe salesman at Marshall Fields. And Ronald Reagan told Jane Byrne, with Don Totten standing next to her, many years ago, that his first memory was his dad running home one day saying, Neil, Neil. Neil was Ron Reagan's older brother, also known as Moon. They called him Moon because he used to moon around. You know, kids, if your kids weren't happy, they'd say, oh, you're kind of mooning around or something like that. Neil Moon Reagan. Neil, something's happened downtown, and you got to come with me and see it because it's historic. People will talk about it for 100 years. So Jack Reagan and Neil Reagan hop on the State Street streetcar and head back downtown from 45th and Drexel back downtown to see the after effects of the Eastland disaster. Ronald Reagan's left at home with his mom, Nell. That was his first memory. He said that. When Ronald Reagan said that there was a way to overcome the Soviet Union, the political establishment and the foreign policy establishment, from Paris to Tokyo to the Chicago Council on Foreign Relations, back to New York City and out to the Los Angeles Global Affairs Council, thought he was nuts. They said, it's not going to happen. The Soviet Union is a fact, and it's got to be accepted. That's what we learned at Yalta. Roosevelt, Churchill, they accepted it. We have to accept it. That extended freedom, not against the British Empire, not against our own institution of slavery, but vindicating the rights of millions upon millions upon millions of people who had been consigned to a certain slavery behind the Iron Curtain. And he did that because he was inspired by guess who? Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. I think that as Illinois Republicans, we can take real pride in knowing that two of these greatest presidents had a strong link to us. Ronald Reagan, to the very day he died, always thought of himself as an Illinoisan. And I think we can learn from them. Because we've got a situation now where what we know so well, what we've seen so long, what some of us, Tony has gotten many plaudits and many applause, but I want to tell you that in 1986, when I was executive director of the Cook County Republican Party, and we were trying to overcome George Dunn. George Dunn, what have you done? We had a chant, we had a song. Judy was out with her accordion. It was really, and we came close to defeating George Dunn. We had a generic Republican campaign, and I'm going to talk to Bill about it. I've already talked to Pat Brady and Lee Rupes. We're going to have a generic Republican campaign because I don't want to forget anybody's name, so I wrote it down. But we all know, it's a team effort. And we all know that we're not leaving anybody behind. Because we all know that we're walking in the shoes of the greats. And we are following those paths because we know that our neighbors, that our friends, that our family, that people we don't even know and haven't even met are facing the toughest times that they've seen in 75 years. They are. They are. And you know what? We've got a lousy state government. We have got a lousy state government that's not helping them. It's not helping them. I got really upset this week because a big group of influential business leaders decided that they were going to come out for something. You see, I actually wrote a speech because I thought I might have a podium and I could hide this, but now I didn't know I was going to be out there. So I didn't get to do it. But anyway, I'm going to tell you something. I am going to tell you that I wrote something here this week to this group of influential businessmen. It really ticked me off. And I sent this note, and I said, how dare you come up? Here's how I started. This is Tony sometimes asks me if I'll write a letter for him. I want to tell you, here was my opening line. They will use you. These guys came out, they said, well, we think you should do this, and that. Oh, about spending, we think you should do that. But it's okay to raise taxes $8 billion. I'm thinking to myself, what planet are these guys living on? No, I didn't say that. I'm on YouTube. So here was my opening line. This is kind of the opening line. Dear blank, dear business leader, they will use you to raise taxes and do nothing to clean themselves or their $15 billion fetid dunghole of corruption. That's how I began. It got worse. I got to tell you, in this connection, it's dismaying. The document says Illinois government, for its massive failure, has earned another $8.1 billion from all of us and our businesses. That may be a view shared by those whose unions depend on the state for salaries, benefits, retirements, etc. But if any one of your board members took such a proposition, scaled to their personal business situation, and presented it to their board of directors, they would be escorted off the property. That's what I said about that. And then I've got to just give you one final line here. Because I want to tell you, there is a recession on. This is about raising taxes to fund a corrupt structure, okay? Because that's what we're talking about. Let's not kid each other, okay? I don't want to BS you. You don't want to BS me. It's a corrupt structure. The structure itself is corrupt. There's a recession on. People hurt. They need the fruit of their labor. It is theirs. They deserve it. Pouring more of that into the fetid hole is obscene. Doing so without constituting an utter end to the madness that dug the hole in the first place is itself participating in that very madness. In this recession, doing so is extraordinarily callous. And I'm going to tell you, people, the ones who are going to stop that tax increase are not in the business community downtown. They're not at Onwensia Country Club in Lake Forest. They're not at the Chicago Council on Foreign Relations. And I love the council. I get to speak there a lot, and I'm on YouTube, and I don't want to. But they're not in the privileged class that doesn't understand the lived reality of your neighbors and your family and the friends you have down the street who are struggling because somebody lost a job. They're living a different style of life, and they're indifferent to taxes because of that difference. And I'm here telling you tonight, you are the most important people in Cook County, because following on what Bill Brady said, and following on what Dan Patlak said, and following on Judy Bartopinka and her rousing call to action, and following on Tony Pareka, the entire organization is going to branch out and find the voters who are going to say, stop, enough is too much, we aren't going to take it anymore. And when you do that, you're going to be Reagan tall, Lincoln tall, and George Washington tall. And I'll be so happy to know you. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you. I love you, man. I love you.